Hi, this is Barbara, the East Coast Dragon Lady, and this is Dragon Hour. And today, which here in the United States is the day after Thanksgiving, but for everybody else, it's just another day. Because people are wondering, like, why are you doing it at 1 o'clock on a Friday? So I had the day off. That's good. So we're actually international. We've got Janine from Scotland. We've got Simone from Germany. We've got Jerry from Salem, Mass. There's me from Amesbury in Mass. And then Sandy is in Canada. So we couldn't be more international, could we? So this is so Sandy and I got together this year. I did a couple of your podcasts, and then you were scheduled to come on mine, and then a lot of things happened. So I don't know if you want to get into that, but I do have a nice little piece here that Sandy sent me a while ago that she probably forgot that you sent. So I'll tell you who Sandy is. So Sandy and I obviously have dragons in common. And we sort of met through Dragon Thunder, which seems to be where I've met a lot of people in the beginning. So this is Sandy. Sandra is a small town girl from Jasper, Alberta, Canada, who grew up climbing the hills and trees, biking for miles and playing kick the can. The typical timeline events all came crashing to a halt in 2000, when she dislocated her pelvis on both sides. This began 16 years of injuries, ending with a minor break in the pelvis, a broken collarbone, and a frozen shoulder, all in 2016. This period of Sandra's life was one of those dark nights of the soul you may have heard about. She struggled with feeling unheard by the medical professionals, feeling unworthy as a wife and mother, and being physically incapable of doing most day-to-day activities. There were moments of suicidal thoughts, and the pain, the physical, emotional, and mental pain. There were bottles of painkillers everywhere. During this emotional roller coaster, Sandra sensed there was more to life. In fact, her guides were yelling at her to make changes. The path had been a long one of trial and error, and then it happened, the light at the end of the tunnel. A beautiful soul heard Sandra. This person opened the door to so many possibilities, including showing Sandra how to work with her guides. From there, Sandra learned how to ask for help, change her thoughts, break old habits, and find the silver lining in everything, where before Sandra had been racked in pain. Mountain biking became her passion. What took Sandra years to understand, she offers to you in a book, a spiritual how-to as an inner dragon transformation specialist. Sandra sees the incredible you and takes you deeper on your own personal journey, uniting the inner child and inner dragon so that you can create the life you want. But that is like, wow.
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 I have to tell you that I almost burst into tears with you reading that, because I happened to be in one of those dark nights of the soul, and I didn't even realize it right until you said that right now. And yes, I've had an incredible life, even though that occurred. And since 2016 until now has been absolutely remarkable. And the reason why I'm kind of jumped in with what I just said about, I wanted to get very emotional about that is, in June, I injured myself again. And this time I'm not satisfied with sitting in the back and just letting everybody else decide what was going to happen with myself. And in fact, this morning went and saw somebody, and they agreed with me I needed to be an advocate for myself. And so I made a phone call today that was I really called upon my inner dragon to come up and go, you know what, you need to do this. And I took action, and I have somebody working in my corner with me. So I'm now 6 months into this versus 16 years. So I'm back on that pain pill thing where it's every single day, 24/7. However, I am not going to let it go 16 years this time.
Right.
There's no way. There's no way I'm doing that.
No. And I think as well, like you said, the dragons, we're all waking up to dragons. And I think most people on here, it hasn't been, I mean, some people we've met that it's been 20 years, 25 years. There's a lot of people that it's still recent. And then when they do appear to you, it's like, wow, it's like this huge acceleration. So, and I know that we've talked about, I've been on a couple of your shows and we just like talk for an hour and we're like, oh my God, is that gone? But yes, so, and I know that also that it, and I felt, I could feel that in just reading that horrible, we all know about addiction and pain medication and that stuff, but the amount, and I know that I mean, I watch you on your Facebook page and you're always mountain biking and you're like, I'm not going to stop just because I've had a fractured pelvis and a frozen shoulder and this and this and this. And I'm like, wow, you're still getting back on.
Yes, exactly. You know, we can let things knock us down and keep us down, or we can make it the choice on how we want to live our life.
Yeah,
And I like because of this injury, I know that I'm not mountain biking over the winter. We usually fat bike. My husband will probably still fat bike, but I'm incapable. So I went out and I purchased an exercise bike because I am going to be proactive in my life. I'm going to make sure that I'm coming through this winter season and popping out the other side, feeling good about what I've done, what I've accomplished. I actually sat down with a beautiful soul from Ireland last night, and she's like, okay, well, set an intention. And my intention is to go into 2025 with having a beautiful range of motion and mobility in my right arm with ease and grace. And it wasn't just the mobility and range of motion, because I could have done that. I can do that. I can do a range of motion with this, but it's with the ease and grace. Now that takes out the pain and all the other circumstances that come with that, right? So
right,
when we're setting our intentions of what we want, it's really being conscious of, okay, making that picture a lot more fuller, um,
right,
a lot more positive, I guess, if you want to say, but
yeah,
also really recognizing. And my growth with the inner dragon this year has been, absolutely ridiculous, like so ridiculous. This happened in June, the injury. Inner dragon stuff came up with the dragon ally name, and you and I spoke about this in a couple of different podcasts on with each other. And that was me sitting in my living room, and all of a sudden the words the dragon ally popped in, and I'm like, what? And I can feel the energy of all these dragons around me. And from there came up the inner dragon, and that was one of those moments of um I'm going to take a kind of approach this from a different angle. I have heard a lot of people say right now that they feel like they're on this precipice, that there's this big wide openness in front of them and they don't know what's coming. And that's how I've felt for most of this year because of this inner dragon stuff specifically. Because to
yeah,
me, and I think really humanity, inner dragon is extremely new. Dragon is very ancient, but this inner
yeah,
dragon piece and how much it is a part of ourselves was brand new. And the work and the play and the immersion of myself with this inner dragon stuff has been really fascinating. And I can actually speak from a far more inner dragon educated space now is how I want to word that, because it's coming from my inner dragon, right? Or from the inner dragon persona. Yeah.
right. Yeah, and I think talking about those intentions, I think, as the end of the year for me, as the year starts to wind down, I feel like there's this, like I feel like somebody's behind me. I've had this the last couple of years that something big is coming, and I feel like I'm getting this push, and then at the end of the year, I'm just like pushed out there. The last 2 years that's happened to me. Like in December, I'm just like pushed out there. So I can understand why people might be saying, I feel like I'm on a precipice.
Yeah.
And so much has happened, especially for us in the United States. I mean, we've had, and well, actually in England as well, they've had elections. They've got a new, I mean, so many countries have. And did you in Canada have was it election everywhere? I can't.
It seems like there's always elections.
Elections. Yeah, I know for England and for us, this was like huge. I mean, they've had a change of party in England. and hear, whatever our thoughts are. We've got a new, whatever's going to happen in January is going to happen. And I think that's where people are feeling this like uncertainty. As you were talking about that, I'm like, yeah, I think the more you work with dragons, you don't feel that like uncertainty. You just know something.
Yeah, well, and when you look back at your own history here of the last 2 years, and
Right.
that push, 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 you were literally pushed into this incredible position with Kevin Humphrey. And then
Right.
that whole scenario with the Dragon Thunder expanded exponentially this year.
Yes.
So there's
Right.
your push right there. And that's just one instance of your life. So many other things happen for you as well.
And also that's happened to a lot of people, right? A lot of people have like the dragons have shown up. However, we've all had our different experiences of how they've shown up and how we work with them, right? And I love the fact, and I'll ask you to share that as well, like how we all work differently. And for me, it's working with collectives. In the beginning, when I wasn't sure, I was hearing people talk about their individual dragons, and I'm like, I don't think I've got any. And they were like, oh, there's plenty of dragons around you, but this is what you're supposed to do. And I always say my dragons are very bossy, but they are. They literally tell me that this is what you're going to do. And it doesn't matter whether I say, I don't think so. They're like, you are. Trust us. That's where you're going.
Yeah, you know what, and I love that because um like there's the individual dragons, like as you said, many people work with individuals. We have a beautiful friend who literally works with crystal guardian dragons now,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
that was like a spur of the moment, and then boom, it went from one
Yeah.
to 100 in
Yeah.
like weeks kind of
Yeah.
thing. So
Yeah.
we just don't know what's going to happen with the dragons. And for myself, my inner dragon, like the dragon journey that I took, dragons have been around me for quite some time. However, the inner dragon portion really became evident when I healed a lot of my inner child trauma, my little you stuff. And that provided the space in the room for this other part of myself. So we're talking about three pieces. There's the human body, but on one side of ourselves is that inner child. And then on the other side is the inner dragon. The inner child's a protector. The inner dragon is the action taker. So once the inner child feels much safer and has dealt with a lot of that or broken old habits and created new ones, then the inner dragon has a better space to come into. So it's been my purpose now to bring this inner dragon into the awareness of humanity, starting basically with North America and Europe, because um, the pieces of this, the emotional, the physical, the spiritual body, the self-identity, um, I can't even put to words how fantastic it is, these bits and pieces. And it is so individual for each person. So even if you have a posse or a collective of dragons, or you're really connecting with one dragon or a couple dragons, that inner dragon is a very intimate part of yourself, and it is very much you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, and I've certainly had I've had memories. I've done some past life, or they just come up. I was just doing. I took Akashic Records with Casca Graham
I,
in UK. Awesome. So I mean, it blows you away. But I have met they and again, this is my bossy dragons, right? So we had assignments to do, and they were like, "Yeah, but you're going to do it this way, and you're going to meet every one of your chakra dragons first." So they made me meet every one of them, understand who they were, what color they were. And they were like, and then we'll tell you when you're ready. I'm still waiting. I keep doing all the other things. And I'm like, and they were like, no, you still need to do some other work because that's huge. Like, I've met my Akashic drag. So I do have my own personal Akashic dragon, and he's huge. I mean, bigger than mountain. I mean, he's big, big, big. In fact, I think he may even be a phoenix because if you heard Jocelyn from the UK, I'm going to have her on in. She has been connecting with phoenixes. So I just saw this huge feathered um, dragon. But when I was reading over my stuff, I talk about like the phoenix. I put somewhere in there about a phoenix, and we know that about dragons as well. So there's more stuff that's unfolding about dragons that's really exciting that we didn't
oh,
know. until somebody connected with phoenixes and said, this is a choice for dragons. As they ascend, they can become phoenixes. And I'm like, whoa. So, when but we're never done. And I've had lots of memories now of being a dragon, of actually, when I was in Atlantis, I was a dragon, and I had that. I could see myself at top of the mountain just roaring, and it like does you good to know that you can go to the top of the mountain and do that. So as much as I say I do work with collectives, but there's that inner dragon and the inner knowing. And then when I connect with Merlin, he tells me, oh, you've been my dragon, I've been your dragon. And, so we know we've had all these lifetimes as dragons, working with dragons. So yeah, it's exciting.
Exactly. You know what I'd like to do with you guys, if
Yes.
you're open to this, I'd like to do just a small little exercise that just kind of starts to show you how to connect with your inner dragon. Okay, so take a
Yeah.
normal breath right now, first of all. Just take another one. And that is very much you, your physical body. Okay. Now with this other thought, breathe like your inner child. And now breathe like your inner dragon. Can you feel the difference between those three pieces? So that inner dragon energy, invite it to show you a color or a feeling, an emotion, possibly an element, meaning water, fire, earth, wind, the ethers, whatever that is. And ask that inner dragon to show you where it resides in your body. And whatever pops in, just allow that first thought. Beautiful. Come back to this space when you're
Mm.
ready. Yeah. How did that feel?
That was interesting, especially going from inner child to dragon. It's
Yeah,
like,
there's quite the difference.
yeah,
Like you feel the cadence or the like,
yes,
and for lack of a better word, there's that big, deep breath
yeah,
versus
yes. That
yeah.
little, I was like, I wanted to go like that. And then it was like, whoa, that big expanse. Yeah. And anybody else want to share what it felt like?
Yeah, it was quite a dramatic change, and energy, from one extreme to the next. And there was no subtlety about it, when you move to the dragon compared to the inner child. So it was, yeah, it was a very useful exercise.
Mm.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Jerry.
Um, well, I had the same thing with breath. You could feel the different immense change with that. But when you said to focus on the color, I was actually seeing like a horizon on water of either a sunset or a sunrise with all the orange and yellows in that mix.
Mhm.
And the water was so blue. It was dark blue, not like around here green. Our ocean looks more like a green when the waves turn. This was like totally blue. So I felt like I was like way out there in the ocean, but the sunrise was just like it was right here in front of me, the
Mm.
colors. So
Yeah.
it's pretty powerful.
Thank you for
And
sharing.
I felt a lot of energy in my throat, which
Mhm.
surprised me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So using both of you guys as the example, like I love that you like this is such a powerful exercise to me because of we start with ourself first, and then that inner child breath, and then that inner dragon breath. So you really get the idea of how totally different these are, and that they are ultimately your breath, right? It's not somebody else coming in and breathing for you, it's you breathing, right? So these aspects of yourself, very conscious of that. I love the colors that you're getting specifically there too, because mine's blue. Like mine's like this royal blue color, this just fantastic royal blue, and it- it's it's one of those points that you can use as so it's just like when you connect with an inner child or one of your dragons, your collective dragons, you've got this image or you get this sense of feeling. So now you have a very specific item or color or where in your body this is that is like your um pivotal point, I guess you could say, or your marker point. Like you've got something now that you can recognize. So even if you're out and about and you see these colors too, you can connect in with your inner dragon even more easily.
Mhm. Yeah, mine was an indigo, but mine was mine are galactic drag. A lot of my dragons are galactic, so I wasn't surprised that I got a bit like Janine's background, but it was more that indigo blue, and I was like, oh, I know where I am. But it was my solar plexus that it was from. So
Wow.
that was interesting because different time it can be different. It depends where we are, right? It's
Oh, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
so
mine,
mine,
the color that came to me was black tourmaline. So
oh,
Oh,
I
black,
black
love that.
tourmaline. Yeah.
black crystal dragon, it was quite a large, kind of prehistoric looking one.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was quite powerful all about here.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was a strong, strong energy.
Yeah, it's like your background. That's almost like black
Yeah,
tourmaline.
yeah. Well, I led to this. I made this one myself, actually.
Oh,
Just
cool.
so you could take this a step further. As you recall, I asked if it was an element or an elemental as well, and you can feel that. Like I know for sure, mine personally, with that royal blue, it's also a water dragon, and it actually has. I use the word familiar. That might be a term some of you are familiar with. And my inner dragon's familiar is like otter. So when otter energy is about, I know that also my inner dragon is being activated as well. But it doesn't necessarily have to have an element or an animal that's associated with your inner dragon. I know one beautiful soul, her inner dragon appears as mermaid energy. So if you're not getting this image of an inner dragon, it's okay.
Mhm.
Like be in the flow of what is being presented to you because your energy is providing for you what it is. Because she was struggling for a bit about, well, I can't get this inner dragon, like I don't get this concept. And then she was talking about this mermaid energy, and it was like that's what it is. Your mermaid energy is the inner dragon. So it's all in how each and every one of us relates to the world and relates to ourselves, right?
Right. And I think as well, listening to and catching a few other people's podcasts, I think we're realizing as well that there are mixture of dragons. Like I said, when I met my Akashic dragon, it was like a feathered dragon. Um, and then people have been, the unicorn dragon is another one that just came to me. And yesterday, Kevin and Alessandra and a couple other people did which I caught some of it because Alessandro had said, oh, and the unicorns. And I'm like, oh, I've just met a unicorn dragon. And she goes, that's what I'm going to be talking about. So there's no coincidences, right? And I was like, I saw the dragon, and what was interesting was, and she said it as well, that a unicorn's portrayed with a horn. It's actually the third eye, and it's like a hologram. It's an energy. It's not actually a horn. They were like, this isn't a horn. This is very strong energy that can heal you, that can do a lot of things, but it's being portrayed as a horn.
Like a
And
vortex, like the vortex energy.
vortex, it's that, yeah. And it's very strong. And I connected to that when I was connecting to my third eye dragon, and this unicorn popped up and said, well, I'm a mixture. And then I heard other people saying that they've encountered them as well. So you know, we can't make this stuff up, right? And you can't go and Google it. So it's like even more exciting when you hear somebody else saying what you've seen. So
well, and I think that's what has been the most difficult part for myself with this inner dragon stuff is I have yet to find anybody who actually talks about an inner dragon. So this is how new it is for me,
right.
and how new it appears to be possibly for North America. And I use North America because I don't know what else is going on in other parts of the world. But and in that, it's really been interesting. And I speak about this on some of the podcasts that Barbara and I share, where I had an incident occur back in, I guess it would have been April, where my vehicle broke down. I was put into a hotel room for a couple nights because I was like hundreds of miles away from my home. And in that, it was like, okay, well, what am I going to do here? I don't have my mountain bike. I'm an avid mountain biker. I don't have my bike with me. So what am I supposed to do? And I'm literally asking the divine, what am I supposed to do? And it was like, you can now ask the questions that you want about inner dragon for humanity. It wasn't for me. It was like for humanity. So it was massively huge, and I actually created a seven part series, I believe it is, on my YouTube channel, in the Dragon Tales podcast, that really kind of breaks down what that inner dragon means for humanity. And in this further exploration that I'm doing now, it's just been fascinating to witness that, to witness like and taking into consideration. And I love that you spoke about chakras, and I got the sense of chakras with some of the rest of you. That chakra piece is extremely important with regards to the inner dragon piece.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And also, I was just remembering what else I've done. So I just did my dragon empowerment Reiki. And again, the dragon, I've done other Reikis, but my dragons I've never felt the need to be a dragon Reiki master. They told me this is the one you need to do. I'm still not quite sure what I'm meant to do with it, but then when you understand about your chakras and each of them have dragons, and then you know who they are and what the purpose is, you can help other people with that as well. And I think the dragons are showing us that, because I know several other people have talked about connecting with your chakra dragons, in the last couple of years. So we know that they've been present and they are present, and we can get to know them and work with them. Yeah. So that's interesting, but that's good. Yeah, I like that. So so just going off the dragons for a minute, I know that this year your hometown of Jasper was devastated by the wildfires. Yeah. And I know that, and you don't live too far from.
Yeah, I'm only 50 miles if you're American and 80K away from that town. So in essence, what happened is a wildfire came through, and totally unprepared for that. No preemptive to making preparations for that, and it literally burned down a third of the town, their homes and everything. So 368, I think, buildings were lost in the fire. It was pretty devastating. Yeah. And moving forward from that, I know that we've done, there's kind of like a highway that goes past it and a highway that goes down from it. And I've been on all those highways. I have not yet had the courage to go into town to look at it, because it's just, it's one of those things. And I'm actually going next Friday into that town, but it's going to be dark, and I'm only going to the saved end of town. So it'll be interesting what happens there. But there's a lot of really interesting energy. When we talk about forest fires, we talk about the hurricanes, Carolina, North Carolina, and that South Carolina, the way they got hit. There's a lot of stuff happening. And when, here we are talking about dragons, more and more people are becoming more and more aware, I think, because of all the things that are happening, and they're starting to make choices on where they want to be and how they want to align themselves. And when I say that, I'm not just talking the political scene. In fact, I'm not even talking about the political scene. I'm literally talking about the spiritual scene, and how you want to align, and aligning with the light, whatever that looks like for each of the individuals, right?
Yeah. Have the dragons spoken to you about what happened there? Yeah.
You know what? I think I've been in a lot of denial this year because of all the things that have been happening.
Right.
And it hasn't even been something that's been on my radar to ask. And now that you've brought that up, there's a reason why you're asking me that, and I'm going to make a point of asking. Thank you for that.
I think because I know that I follow you on Facebook, or I see when you post things, and I could feel that energy, that like when you've got that connection. I mean, it's hard enough if it's like the next town to you and you know people there, but the fact that there was a lot of memories for you there, I could feel that. And then as we're talking about the dragons, I'm like, I want, because the dragons, I mean, all these things like the hurricanes, I know there was a lot of people doing, like when they were coming, when those hurricanes were forming, people were seeing that there was not very nice things in them. There was, I mean, a lot of people saying there was a lot of evil, that people were trying to get rid of that before it actually came in. So there's a lot of people doing a lot of work on these weather systems. And like I was saying before we started, I mean, here in the northeast of the United States, we've never had it so dry. Everywhere else had rain this year. Everywhere else had all these things. We had nothing, and we've just experienced wildfires doing exactly what they've done in other. I feel like I'm in another part of the country when they talk about jumping from one forest to another, and then people were going down that whole conspiracy theory. They were talking about, people are setting them intentionally, and people are like, no, this is what happens when the roots get on fire. That we've not had any rain, and we had yesterday, it was cold and wet. We've not had significant rain. Can you remember, Jerry? I mean, it's got to be April. I mean,
I'm going to say, April,
maybe even earlier. I mean, just
March, maybe
summer of no rain at all.
Can I swing you back around to something you said there, Barb? I just, I feel like I have to say this, so I'm being pushed to say this, actually. When people are working on weather systems, the way that people have worked systems in the past is that they felt like they needed to push them to other places. And the reality is actually it's the dissipating of it versus the pushing of it to another place. So I just wanted to mention that.
No, I think you're right. And then, I mean, like on the West Coast as well, they had some storms come in, and then they didn't have any rain. So we sort of, it's either you've got a storm and you're being flooded, or nothing, and then you get the mudslides and things. So
the Vancouver Island on our west coast up in Canada here, both it and Vancouver, and actually down into the northwestern states, got slammed with that cyclone type of weather, which they've never experienced. And there was something like 600,000 homes out of power in northwestern USA, and on the island alone, my sister lives in one city, and 75% of that city was without power. Like there was 80,000 homes. So, and I know we're going off on a tangent here.
No, but I think, but I do think that we need to pay attention to Mother Gaia.
Yeah.
I mean, I think often says, there've been volcanoes erupting. Iceland. I mean, I just and again, that's another dragon. I just connected with some Icelandic dragons this year, and I kept hearing fire and ice. And then the volcano erupted again, and it's like, again, it hasn't erupted for a long time, and now it's, so we know Mother Gaia is telling us something, right? And I do think that, and the dragons are very aware of that. Anybody that gets messages from dragons, every now and again, they will suddenly hit me with a whole stream of stuff, and they often talk about that weather patterns and. Just we're not paying attention, we're not listening, and she's just getting louder and louder. So, gonna sneeze.
Bless you.
Bless you. Oh. That's interesting. That's fine.
Oh Lord. There's some very transformational energy occurring for Mother Earth right now. And, like we often think that we have no part of this, we can't do anything about it. And yet we can, we truly can. And it's so comical because we think that it's such a joke to keep talking about how love will change things, and yet love does change things, and love is the light and coming in from your heart space, right?
Right.
It's really how we're making a difference. And when we're showering love out to our neighbors, out to our family, out to the ground, out to the tree roots, out to the animals, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And then having that, this just came through, having that go on the wings of dragons as well all around the world. It's just really, really remarkable. And I know it sounds like, oh, how can that make a difference? But it makes a huge difference, makes a massive difference.
Well, and it also reminds me as well, and I'm hearing, so the other thing is, as we heal ourselves, so you were talking about healing, as we heal ourselves, we're healing other people, we're healing parts of the world that need that healing.
Right.
So, I was one of these people that did not, if somebody said to me, well, love's going to heal all, and I'd be like, yeah, right. And you have to experience it. I mean, this is again what I was told was until I was able to open my heart, and the dragons helped me do that. I've done a lot of work, but I needed them to help me to just explode it. And that's what they're doing for a lot of us, is helping us open up our hearts, heal our hearts, and then we can then send it out into the world. But that's why they're coming to a lot of people to help them do that. So,
yes, and I want to expand on what you just said there, Barb, because I think people aren't recognizing that when you go inside and you are healing yourself, your inner child, the traumatic events that you've experienced, that you're changing your expectations, changing your limiting beliefs, creating new habits, breaking the old habits, creating new habits, that because of that, even though you think you feel or look all exactly the same as you ever have, your whole demeanor has shifted and changed. How you speak to the world, how you react to the world has totally changed. And that's the ripple effect that's actually causing all this beauty to occur.
Yeah. In fact, and Simone's heard me say this because we've been doing some work with Kelly Springer. People kept asking, they would stop me. I mean, even people I didn't know that well, and they'd like, "This, have you changed your hair? Have you like? There's something like they couldn't put
You
something
look
to it, but
younger.
they noticed there was something different about me, and they were like, "Did you change your hair? Did you change your hair color? You got different makeup on? There's something different about you. What is it?" And I couldn't say, "Well, it's the dragons, right?" But it's just that you're right. We are different, and that's why all of us find each other, right? Because as we do this work, we're again internally we're changing, and we're able to share that. And I think that's like the biggest gift, right, that the dragons have brought to all of us. Yeah. So I think that's it is. It's very powerful. But and I think if you're in doubt, I always say just ask them, because people say, well, what am I supposed to do? Just ask the dragons, right? They know.
Exactly. So I just want to open this up. Do any of our people who are literally sitting with us now, and I'm not sure if you have access to the Facebook or wherever else you have, does anybody have any questions about inner dragon? I mean, I'm sitting here. If anybody has a question, or if anybody would like a one-liner from their inner dragon.
Right. Yeah. Well, Simone says, well, there are humans interfering with the weather since some time.
Can feel the difference. You can feel if the weather is natural or not. You feel it in the energy. And it's really more frequently that they are interfering with the weather. So even when floods come, it's not Earth, it's man-made for a reason, when people are in fear.
Right.
There's some very interesting podcasts. There's some very interesting podcasts out there, Simone, that talk about how back in the like the 1920s, 30s, that they were doing stuff then, and of course there still are today. But it was just really interesting. Like the it started. One of the things that really became quite noticeable about the weather change was when they started to do the coolant to create freezers.
Oh,
That was a really big one. There's a whole
Refrigeration,
podcast about that that's really quite fascinating, and how all of this stuff was out there, and what was the long-term non-benefit going to be, and what that was going to be for our environment, meaning the weather system, etc. Right? So yeah, there's definitely more at play than we know. Does anybody want to ask any questions about inner dragon or dragons? Because we're definitely here. Hands are going up. Go ahead, Jerry. And then Janine.
Well, I'm fairly new with this, and I've gotten interested in it with Barbara. So you're talking about inner dragons, and I'm saying to myself, I'm not even sure if I know about the dragons enough to link into inner dragons yet. So that's kind of where I'm at. So I'd like to know more about as much as I can know.
For
about it
sure.
all.
By all means, first of all, I think
So,
Barbara and myself can both attest, and anybody else who's been around dragons for any length of time, that dragons have been here forever. They were probably here long before the man-made Earth was created, or Earth it was created, and humans came to existence. So this is just another aspect of dragons, because if dragons have been here all this time and we're all energy, then it only makes sense that that inner dragon is going to be part of all of that as well. So know that you don't need to know about dragons specifically to know about your inner dragon, because it's
Okay.
just like we have business personas, we have personas of ourselves that are spiritual, we have the mother persona, we have the sister persona, we have all these personas. And it's same with the inner dragon. It's another piece of ourselves. Same with the inner child, right? So I really love the power of three, because it is the inner child who is the protector, dealing with the human body, affecting the human body. And then the inner dragon is that piece who is the action taker. And that inner dragon has actually been a part of really magical things that you've done in your life already. It's not like I'm going to suddenly introduce you this inner dragon and you're going to find it somewhere and you're going to bring it into you. No, it's already a part of you, just like your inner child has been. So if you've done something in your life that where you've, or had a day where you're like, oh my gosh, that was such an incredible day, or oh wow, I can't believe I did that. That's your inner dragon really coming in and being part of that, and helping you to be a part of that. So know that that is also too, that little breath exercise. Start to use that. Start to use that in moments where you're maybe feeling flustered or anxiety ridden. Take a moment to go, okay, I'm breathing like this right now. Here's my inner child. I'm going to take an inner dragon breath, because you will automatically go into that breath, and you'll find that it does have a calming effect, so that you can then take action in a different way, right? Yeah.
I find this interesting because Jerry is I'm friends with her sister, and I've known Jerry and her sister a very long time. I think we've almost forgotten how we even met. And Jerry has asked me to actually go and speak, or we're going to figure out a date that I'm actually going to do an in-person talk about dragons. And I think you're right. So Jerry has a spiritualist church, right? Or you just opened
yes.
the spiritualist church in,
And I have a healing center.
Healing Center, yeah.
Yes.
And it was interesting. I went to their opening, and there were people there that were doubting that they could connect to their loved ones on the other side. Now, I always find humor in this thing. And Jerry had said to me, well, maybe you'd like to talk. And there's these people there that are going, I'm not even sure you can connect to my loved ones. And they're like, and what do you do? And I'm like, this is going to be interesting. So I'm like, you don't have to believe this.
I really put you out there that night, but it was, but people are interested and curious now that it was put out there. So
right, but I just said, look, I'm not here to convince you, but I was sitting there laughing to myself, because these people were going, yeah, just prove that that's my loved one, right? Just, and then they were like, oh my God, how do you know that? And then there's me going, wow, I channel dragons. I mean, I
with the
channel others,
dragons.
right? I know. So, but I think that's how things are changing in terms of, people are questioning, they're curious. And I think, as I've said all along, everything I know about dragons, the dragons have told me. So, ask them, or even see if you can connect if you can connect to people on the other side, you can connect to dragons. But it's not, that isn't what I've asked that, because people have asked me, can you channel, people that have passed? And I'm like, yes, but that's not what I do. That's not what I do, right? So, but it'd be interesting if you do. But yes, and we've got to figure out a date for that. But
we will.
Janine,
Yes.
I think you had a question, did you, or you wanted to say?
Yep, go ahead, Janine.
Yeah, hi there. Yeah, it's back to the inner dragon really again. So, essentially we've been sort of awakened within that short period of time.
Mhm.
Essentially, it's really like a remembrance, really, isn't it? It's like an
Yes.
activation to that particular dragon there. So, to strengthen that connection, then, so it's a simple intention, taking you back,
I
build,
love that. Yes. Go ahead.
and
Tell me
just
about-
build that relationship up. So with that, that could probably open up quite a lot of different avenues as well.
Mhm.
I love your questions, Janine. Yes. So just even doing that 3-piece breath work will connect, right? In fact, you could totally eliminate the inner child. It's just that the inner child is such a part of you. It just, to me, it makes sense to have that part.
Yeah.
Also too, I actually have this thing called the inner dragon archetype, where this inner dragon actually has a persona itself, meaning it could be a creator, a guardian, a healer, a sage, a seeker, a visionary, or a warrior. And with this little piece, it's really fascinating because this is where that chakra also comes in. That's another little quiz that I have as well. But as you start to put these pieces together, then you start to recognize ultimately just how powerful you personally truly are, because this is who you've been all along. So it's just like, like we're not talking about this lifetime in itself. We're just talking about all that we've ever been. This is who you've been. Like, this is the power of who you are. So for myself, I'm a healer, and I'm also a seeker, so it only makes sense that I've been given this inner dragon energy to scout out, to look for, to delve deeper into, because they are now using me because I'm a seeker to find out more about it. Like, meaning they're not using me to find out more about it because they know about it, but they're using me because I want to know more about it. I'm seeking out the information. I'm open to what's coming. So when you start to get to know all these bits and pieces, it's extremely powerful. So Barbara, I'll make sure that quiz link is provided for you so you can give it underneath.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that'd be good. Yeah. And also I was going to say, look you up on YouTube as well for your other
Yeah.
things.
Or
Yeah.
sandrapelli.com / inner blueprint. One word is inner blueprint. Yeah, if you go and look at that, you'll find those quizzes in that area, and it also shows all the archetypes and the chakra and that. It's just, so what I hear you asking, Janine, is how do I create a stronger bond with my inner dragon right now? Call upon it. Like, honestly, just like you would any other part of yourself, right? Is when I started to do the inner child work, I would recognize that my inner child was in my imaginary basket on the front handlebars of my mountain bike, catching a ride instead of walking beside me when I was biking up the hill. Well, it's the same thing with my inner dragon. I get the sense of my inner dragon being with me all the time, because it's not just exterior energy, it's inside me. So it's calling upon your inner dragon. Recognize those moments when you're being offered to do something. And when I say that, it's like an opportunity arises. What does that opportunity feel like? Does it feel like something that you would feel very powerful in doing? Like, it's a great opportunity. That's something that your inner dragon is putting in front of you. And now you can take that action, right? Your inner child may hold you back because of whatever traumatic events it's had experienced, but your inner dragon can actually assist you in moving into that opportunity in a different way.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think the more that you connect with a dragon or your inner dragon, like it's just be patient, but they're usually pretty quick. Most stuff that you do. I also learned this when I did Dragon Reiki. When I use Dragon Reiki on a person when I'm doing it, it's like lasered. Like what would take an hour is about 30 minutes. And I didn't realize. So again, my dragons are funny, but they literally watched me. And then they were like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm clearing the chakras." And they were like, "You're too slow. Look." And they'd already done it on me in a meditation where they brought the energy in from my root chakra all the way up, out from the past into the future, and then back down. And they did that 3 times, and they're like, "You're done." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then they stepped back, and then they watched me again, and they were like, "You know, you can do this much faster." And what I learned was it's with intention, right? So rather than going, "I'm going to clean out the chakra now."
Simplicity too. Simplicity.
They're very, and I just heard somebody else who's just taken Dragon Reiki. She said, "Oh, it's like 15 minutes to do it." Just they cut everything in half because it's intention and faster. And the person, and when I asked that person, they were like, "Whoa, what was that? That was like really fast." And I'm like, "Yeah, the dragon stepped in." So they taught me that all you have to do is invite them in to your Reiki session, and it works much faster and not so much of the hands. It's just intention. You know, what chakra, you can ask what chakra is out of balance, and they'll show you, rather than going in or doing a pendulum, right? Because we like to do that, right? Because we're human, right? They forget that. And so many times they've said, "Oh, we forget that you're human."
So my dragon energy, I do Q&As ideally once a month in my groups, and one of the things that I've done is like I set up this, or I used to set up all this energy and clear, like I still clear, of course, and set an intention, and then I would go into this and I would just kind of sit there and let whatever answers come through. And finally, one of Diane Cooper's cards, the Source Dragon specifically, actually chose to be. It's a part of all my Q&As now. It literally steps up. It's got in its upper limbs, it's got this galactic energy, and it literally puts the item that I'm supposed to talk about into that, and it's just like, here's the answer. Just go with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, you know, and that it doesn't take that much time either. I think people were so used to like connecting to our archangels or doing that we have to do these or we feel that we need to do a meditation. For me, it's like I've got a dragon here, like tapping on my shoulder, and I'd be like, "I don't even do I have to do a meditation?" They're like, "No, you've connected with us already." So, and that happens with a lot of people that channel as well. That it's like it's there, right? And sometimes you have to say, "Could you just wait a minute?" And then they get very excited when they connect with us, because you know they're like, "Wow, you're another human that can see me or feel me or whatever," and then they just keep pouring all this energy and information at you. And sometimes you have to say, "Wait a minute," because for me it actually made me physically ill, because there was so much energy coming in that it sort of shut me down. And I was like, "Ooh." And then they were like, "Oh, we know what's happened. We forget you're human. We're back off now."
Yeah.
So it's easy to, you just have to remind them, like, "Can you slow down?"
Yeah. Any last questions for me before I go?
No. Anything else you want to share with us, Sandy?
Being open. Literally just be open to the possibilities, because it's really remarkable what happens when you choose to be open to the possibilities. I think that would be the most important thing I want to share, because that provides the dragons and any other of our guides to really come through in a really magical way.
Yeah, I think you're right. The more open you can be, open heart, just open, it allows us to accept that in. Yeah. And don't have any, I think it's when we question too much. And you know, I've learned that as well. I decided a few years ago to go on, just get taken on a journey, like going down a lazy river. And that was when I was taken one place and then another, and I connected with things, but I didn't have any. And the dragons told me this. They said, "You had no expectations of outcome. I just went with it. I went here, it went here." And I'm still sort of like that. I'm like, "Oh, here's the new year coming up. I'm not quite sure. I don't know what I'm going to be doing next year." Because they just like, they move you through it. So that's great. So
Thank you.
I cannot believe this year. I don't know for anybody else, this year has gone by so fast. Like, I always feel like it's the beginning of the month,
Unbelievable.
it's the end of the
Yeah.
month. It's like,
Yeah.
gone by. It's been the year of the dragon. So it's been
Definitely.
interesting. Next year is the year of the snake, I've just found out. And I was born in the year of the snake. And that's going to be Kundalini energy unleashing. So that's going to be, and it's a powerful year as well, 2025.
Yep. Lots
Yeah,
of
Yeah.
so get ready for 2025. So I have one more podcast this month. Galactic Ashley is actually going to join me. So that would be an out of this world. Can't even remember when it is. December 10th, I believe. It's on my website. You can find me at eastcoastdragonlady.com or eastcoastdragonlady@gmail.com. I simplified it. I made everything East Coast Dragon Lady, so I don't have to go, what is it? What? What else can I say? I'm starting up my lineup for next year. I don't know about you, Sandy, but I'm looking. I've got somebody booked in January, but I've got to look at. So anybody that's watching this and you want to come on my podcast, let me know. It doesn't have to be about dragons. I like to talk about anything. If you know me, I'll talk about anything. So I'd like to thank everybody that joined us today. Those that couldn't, thank you.
Nice,
Thank you
nice meeting everybody.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Mary, for being here. I know Mary's out on the West Coast. So thank you for joining us, Mary. Simone from Germany, thank you. Janine from Scotland. Jerry from Massachusetts and Sandy from Canada, thank you. It's been a great hour. Thank you. And hope to see you again. This will go up on YouTube probably tomorrow, as long as I don't have any problems with the recording. And let me just stop